Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome along to race 2 of the TCR Europe Championship from a sunny, would you believe, Zandvoort. A relatively new circuit to many of our drivers on the grid. They had the experience yesterday of a frenetic race 1, and today we reversed the top 10 from qualifying. Track temperature 7 degrees more than we experienced in race 1, and air temperature creeping close to the 20s for those that are enjoying the beachside resorts in northern Holland. We are slightly delayed. We apologise for that. Some various situations across the morning, but we are able to get underway in relatively stunning conditions, really, with the brand new Hyundai Elantra occupying the front row of the grid. Sami Taufik will be on the pole position. Podium last time out in Paul Ricard, but the car is now heavier than it was at Ricard, and therefore can Sami keep the pace and keep that position at the front of the field. Niels Langeveld, Dutchman, was relatively happy with his performance yesterday, certainly the fastest of the 4 Sebastian Loeb Racing Run cars, and therefore very much eyes set on getting past Sami and trying to build a little bit of an advantage. Doesn't have the same experience as Tom Coronel around this circuit, but certainly does have some experience of this new layout built for Formula 1 coming in September. Jimmy Claret in the Peugeot, very, very strong in Paul Ricard, had the legs on everybody, but obviously been bopped back slightly, and therefore Jimmy will be happy enough with a decent points haul. Franco Girolami, I said that his brother Nestor was not here. I was completely and utterly wrong, and not only is he here, but he went swimming under the tunnel of the circuit on Friday night. And thank you very much to the Twitter for making me aware of that one, and he decided rather than cross over the circuit, they would swim through the tunnel. Isidro Callejas will start on the 3rd row of the grid alongside Mehdi Benani. Benani had a miserable race 1, and I went and had a chat to the team to find out what was really wrong with the car. Had a little bit of contact, but ultimately they didn't find anything bent on the car. So a little bit of man and a little bit of machine, and a reset today. Another reset for Nico Bart. He was incredibly furious after yesterday's contact with Tom Coronel. Lucky to finish the race. He was missing a whole spoke off his rim, and so after chatting with the stewards, there was decided no further action, and Nico spent the evening calming himself down. Reset, new day, Dusan Borkovic in the 2nd of the Audis, Tom Coronel in the 3rd of the Audis on our reverse top 10. Obviously Coronel not picking up the pole position yesterday, just missing out, being caught out really, his team not aware that behind him Jack Young was still pushing on. The Hondas really did look strong yesterday. Jack Young will have watched the YouTube stream, will have watched the onboards where he can, and he would have learned a lot. Said he learned a lot even during the race, understanding what Coronel was doing, but ultimately just didn't quite have the pace. Kim Gavrilov in the 4th of the Audis, as I said, in qualifying 1 was relatively strong, but didn't get the laps together in qualifying 2, therefore qualified 11th and missed out on getting that pole position for this particular race. Felice Jelmini, spoke to him this morning as well, and he went with a setup change before, an untried setup change before the first race, and it was the wrong way, and that's why he went backwards and ended up at the very tail of the field. So he kind of had an excuse in the way that Benani and the crew of the 250 didn't really have a reason for why Benani ended up dropping down the field. Yes, the Elantra's probably hamstrung the most it's been since it was launched at the start of this year. Now it's been raced a few times and there's more data on the car. The guys at WSC are able to then balance it better with the rest of the field than they have been previously. But can they retain that front row lockout for the 13-lap encounter that we have on our forecast in a few moments' time? Wonderful circuit, slightly shorter than when we came here in 2018. It was a 4.3 kilometre circuit for the last 20 years until the modifications, which added a couple of banked turns. Hugenholtz, very different. Tarzan, quite different, which is turn 1. And then Arie Luijendijkbocht is very different, that last turn, absolutely flat out in these TCR cars. And it means we've lost 50 meters of the circuit. So it's a 4.25 kilometer track now. And weirdly, they also lost a turn, according to the official documentation. But I'm not quite sure where that turn went, because effectively on a map, the layout looks pretty similar. Track built in, officially opened in 1948. It was actually forecast to start racing in the seaside town of Zandvoort before the war, on track through the town. But obviously when the war began, it was not possible. So they then began racing after the war. And John Hugenholtz was the president of the circuit, the man who designed the Suzuka track, but did not actually design this track. He was in charge of the design process, but there were many others involved. And basically the track originally took its route from some paths through the dunes. Let's have a look at the grid then in full. Tauflik and Longeveld on the front row. Claire, Jimmy and Franco Girolami on the second row, first of the Hondas and first of the Peugeots. Callejas and Banani on the row 3. And then Nicolas Bart and Borkovic, the two Come To You racing cars, with Coronel behind, and then Jack Young, our pole man from yesterday. Gavrilov in 11th, Yelmini in 12th position, and then Teddy Claret 13th, who really was very frustrated with his qualifying performance. These are the guys who qualified in these positions in qualifying yesterday morning. Hommler 15th, Poussier 16th. Martin Rieber very frustrated with only 17th. Leonov in 18th spot. And then Joachim Galash and Colombani 19th and 20th, with Gustav Birch in 21st. Now, we do have an update also from yesterday. Joachim Galash got himself disqualified, or the team did. Yannick Motorsport managed to make the car 7 millimeters wider than it should be, and therefore it failed scrutineering and had its result, which wasn't a particularly good one, disqualified from yesterday. That, from what I can understand, was literally a bit of bodywork that hadn't been bolted on in quite the right place. I mean, if you imagine, 7 millimeters is less than a centimeter. That Hyundai has had that same problem in the past, but by making the bodywork wider, you can then make the axle wider on the inside. And I mean, it didn't really help Joachim Galash. He finished at the tail of the field anyway. So I think it was an unintentional issue from Yannick Motorsport, who do a lot of hill climbing, a Czech team, and Joachim is Czech himself. But that would have been fixed for today. I found Matto Hommler's N from his Hyundai i30 buried in the back of Mehdi Banani's car. That photo never made it onto our social pages, but I thought that was quite funny. Said to Matto, "Is that yours?" I said, "Oh, they might have been a bit of contact." They would have found themselves a new badge to fit on the front of that car. Now, Jack Young did creep before the lights yesterday. Lots of question marks over whether he jumped the start, but he was so far back in his box that he jumped, then he stopped again, and then he ran again. And because he didn't break the beam, there was no problems with his start. He did start the race from a static position, and that's why he was not given a penalty. So that clears that up. And I think we've ticked and crossed all the boxes that we need to do before we get into a brand new story. Race 2 here at Zandvoort. Green flag at the tail of the field, lights are on, and we go racing here. And who has made the best of starts? Coronel has made a good start in the middle of the pack, but it looks like there's not much space for him. Good start from Jimmy Claret, coming around the outside of Sami Tauflik, and Franco Girolami is there too. So the four at the front of the field go together. Then there's a gap. Mehdi Banani's not made a good start, and there's a little bit of rubbing further back too. Side by side between the two Sebastian Loeb Racing Hyundais. Tauflik on the inside, Nils Langeveld on the outside, and it's super banked here, and you can run all the way around the outside and keep the momentum. So it's still side by side for the lead of the race, with Franco Girolami in 3rd position, and then Jimmy Claret in 4th spot. then a little bit of a gap, and Isidro Calles, then a gap again to the 3 Come To You Racing Audis, desperately not making any contact. Nicolas Bart slots behind teammate Tom Coronel this time, much more sensible than what happened yesterday. Now they've got to get past Dusan Borkovic as well. Big long queue of cars around the back end of the circuit now for the first time. 13 lap encounter, as I said, and now, after a great start, the Peugeot is having to start to defend from Isidro Calles. Calles looks to the inside. Is there a space? No, there isn't, not yet, as Dusan Borkovic helps his fellow legend of touring car racing, Mehdi Benani, around the last couple of corners. Side by side, Tauflik has been moved across by Nils Langeveld, so Langeveld takes the lead, and Tauflik now under pressure from Girolami, who has the inside line and takes the position. Oh, and that's a very, very understeery Hyundai. Is going to lose a huge amount of time now as Claire goes past, Calles goes past, and Tauflik down to 5th position. Interesting to see how he was passed earlier on in the lap as Jack Young tries to make some progress on the grass on the inside of the oval section of the last banked turn. Very brave from Jack Young. He's found a space and he's got himself with an overlap to Dusan Borkovic, but no, not got the momentum down the straight. That Honda is very good in a straight line, but obviously starting your straight line on the grass is not the best thing to do. Looks like 3 wide for a moment between 2 Hyundais and Tom Coronel. Coronel to the inside of Tauflik. Now it becomes the outside. Tauflik dives to the inside line, but Coronel will try and go all the way around. Oh no, Coronel's got a problem. Coronel's got a problem. Oh, the local man then gets a biff from somebody else. Oh, Yelmini goes around. How did that happen? Yelmini with no rear right wheel at all. Well, I think we're going to have a safety car here. There's smoke coming out the back of what looks to be Nicolas Bart's car as well. Maybe that was just a bit of bodywork rubbing on a tyre. But Coronel, the local boy, the winner from yesterday, is out of the race. Felice Yelmini is also out of the race. We've got a challenge for the lead. Franco Girolami tries to open the door on Nils Langeveld. He has the overlap. And again, a little bit more kissing, a bit more touching, and they'll run side by side into the heavy, heavy braking zone of Hans-Urs Bosch. It's initially, it goes right and then it goes left. Oh, Franco Girolami incredibly aggressive to shut the door on Nils Langeveld. We still don't have yellow flags flying, which is a bit of a surprise. The marshals obviously doing a great job of trying to clear the cars. I can see the gantry lights are flashing, so that means that there's a safety car somewhere around here. Yes, yellow flag now on our graphic, and the yellow flag boards will be shown around here. What on earth happened to Yelmini? He must have made contact with somebody, side-to-side contact, and that is cleanly sheared off his rear right wheel. Well, that was rather frenetic, but it always is with reverse grid races. Girolami leads, Langeveld second, Jimmy Claire in third, Calles fourth, then Benani, then Tauflik, Borkovic, Jack Young, Nicolas Bart, and then Davidovski. Coronel got back going again. Now, what happened to Coronel? He went through the hairpin. Here we go again. He's on the outside line, and then he tries to get the power down, and nothing happens. And somebody then comes running into the back of him. Oh, I see. Okay. Gavrilov, trying to take avoiding action, goes left and catches Yelmini and just rips Yelmini's wheel off. Surprised to see it come off quite so easily, though. These are touring cars. They're designed to rub and race. And that looked like it fell off like a single-seater. They've had a few issues, Hyundai, over the last couple of months with rear wheels falling off, whether it be in touring cars or in the World Rally Championship. The wishbones in the rear need to be strengthened, I think. So Coronel yesterday said that when he made his contact with Nicolas Bart, he went for the radio and he pressed the full course yellow button. And literally the buttons are on top of each other. We also heard from Dusan Borkovic in Slovakia that he'd done the same thing. And I wonder whether Coronel, and I don't see any reason why he would have gone for the radio at that point of the lap, you know, going through a tight left-hander. I thought he was going to fight Tauflik a bit harder, and then the car died. There he is. obviously check out his social media at the end of this race. There'll surely be a full in-depth report. He runs himself an onboard camera, so we get all the news. A curious case for Coronel, and he's now 19th spot and even behind the safety car. Right now, Coronel is, can't be right, 18 seconds back? I suppose they're running slower. Here's another look, side by side. Tauflik throws it up the inside to keep the position. There's no contact there, is there? He gets on the power and there's just nothing. But I think there was a little tap from Gavrilov, and there's Yelmini appearing into shot with no wheel. It's like he's in the wrong gear or something, isn't it? Because eventually the car starts pulling and off he goes again. Did get a hit from Yelmini, and look at the wheel just disappearing on its own. Wants to be in the race, where the rest of the car doesn't. Very unlucky for Yelmini. Absolutely not his fault at all. Now Coronel should be able to get through. Coronel in the pits. Okay, so he's actually right underneath my commentary box, so I'll be able to see what the issue is. Why he's got the problem. So they're looking underneath the front. There has been contact, look. You can see there's rubber on that right front. So there was that contact with Tauflik. He would have been, no, he's on the, that's the wrong way round, isn't it? That's the wrong side of the car. I can hear the drills going, so I think they're going to be changing a wheel at the back of the car, on the back left. Perhaps he's got a slow puncture. Now, I think maybe the contact with Gavrilov has perhaps broken an arm. They're trying to take the wheel off, but they can't. And what they don't want to do here is spend too much time trying to change it. Yeah, there's something broken in there. That wheel should come off easily. It does now. Let's have a look. What's broken in there? Is there anything that can be easily and quickly fixed? They'll do as much as they can before the safety car comes down the start-finishing straight, and then they'll try and get Tom out before, so at least he doesn't lose a lap. There's no point in him running if he loses a lap. Well, they all know what they're doing, don't they? There's been a bit of shouting in French. There clearly is.
I know, but track it. Prepare the wheel, please.
In beautiful English, that was break it, as in pull the sill off so it's not rubbing against the wheel. I think that's the problem he's got. There's been a bit of contact, and the bodywork is touching the wheel, and he doesn't want to incur a full puncture, or already has a puncture and doesn't want to do it again. Now the car's come down the start-finishing line. That means that he will lose a lap, and ultimately it could be day done for Tom. He's in 19th position. We do score down to 15th spot, so if enough people retire out the race, Tom can still pick up 1 or 2 points, but ultimately this was the weekend where he should have picked up maximum, or at least close to maximum. Second in our championship, not far away from Mikael Ashkenar, who, by the way, not with us this weekend because he's racing in Vallelunga in the first round of the ETCR. But Ashkenar, unfortunately, retiring out of the qualifying session for today's Superfinals. So Ashkenar with some work to do over in Vallelunga, and his championship lead is being nibbled at over here. For the first time in TCR Europe history, we're dropping a round, so 2 races will not count towards the championship score. They will naturally be the lowest scoring races of the season. And that will allow Ashkenar to miss 2 races because there'll be 2 0 scores and still be very much in championship contention. However, Ashkenar and Tom Coronel are likely to miss the next round of the championship when we go to Spa. And that's a big problem for Tom, because of course another track that he knows very well and loves and close to home, because they are forecast to be racing the World TCR. But still a question mark over whether the World TCR is racing on that weekend at the track in which it's at the moment forecast to do. if you get my drift. And so it's still possible we might see Ashkenar and Coronel next round. But anyway, Coronel in the pits, and I think probably now out of the race. We are going to get rid of the Audi R8 safety car, and we're going to go back running with 10 laps remaining of this race. We added a couple of laps in because we've been behind the safety car, and Girolami's already gone and created a nice big gap over Niels Langeveld. We know that Honda is very strong down the straights as well, and the Hyundai is compromised a little bit over the last couple of laps. Into the pits goes the Audi. It was pretty tight, but whether the Audi was going to clear before Girolami got to him. Plenty of slipstreaming further back. Here comes Dusan Borkovic down the inside of Sami Taufluik, and he's made that one stick. So that puts Dusan Borkovic up into 6th position. Borkovic on the podium yesterday in 3rd, Jack Young 2nd, and Tom Coronel the victor from yesterday. Look at this, different racing lines. Many more drivers doing the, let's say, correct racing line now than we saw in race 1. That deep into the turn, let the car run wide, and here comes Jack Young on the Honda. The Honda is strong. All side by side of the very, very risky part of the circuit. Over the brow of the hill, they continue to go side by side. This was the corner that Jack Young said he was super scared of. Oh, and he's into the gravel. He tried it, he tried his best, and thankfully not carrying too much speed to reach the barrier. Oh, Jack. He had a big moment there in practice, got fully sideways, and good on him for keeping his foot in. I thought for a moment he was going to be able to go around the outside of him, but ultimately it's a dirty track after so much running, and there was just not enough grip out there. He was helped into a bit of an oversteer, but then, yeah, look, the sand is there, understeer hits him, and thankfully the gravel trap, which is very banked as well, keeps the car out of the wall. Well, it's all been go, but Franco Girolami checking out at the head of the field. We saw Girolami on the podium in Slovakia, his debut podium in the debut of the 2020 season. That's a cool shot, isn't it? Through the oval. Just love watching the cars go through there. I keep saying oval, banking. Nicolas Bart trying to find a way past Sami Taufluik now. Taufluik on the front row of our grid, and 7th position now. And Bart will want to get past because you can see Dusan Borkovic is checking out. And Taufluik has just not got the pace, whether he's had a rub somewhere or whether he just doesn't quite have the confidence in that car. I was expecting to see better pace from Niels Langeveld in this race, but maybe, especially with the temperatures a little bit different to what we saw yesterday, maybe Niels not quite got the car underneath him that he wants. Oh, Taufluik a little bit wide through Chevlac. That's going to allow Bart to go down the inside. Has a look. It's not a huge braking zone there, and Taufluik properly sideways. This is a better opportunity here if you just hold an inside line, but actually the circuit now goes left, so Taufluik will have the inside line for the left-hand turn. This is what Bart did yesterday and failed. Oh, and Davidovski thinks there's an opening. Davidovski gives Bart a little bit of a shunt, and now it's side by side. The Macedonian will have the racing line going into the chicane, but Bart will have the inside line, and ultimately he also has the pace down the straight, so Bart should hold on. He does. Davidovski here in 2018, the last time we visited Zandvoort as the TCR European Championship, or European Series. Oh, we might have a change for 3rd position. Isidro Callejas on the tail of the Peugeot. The Honda is strong in a straight line. The Peugeot was very strong in a straight line in Paul Ricard. Less so here, though. And has Callejas got enough? He goes to the inside line, and Jimmy Claret does not fight it at all, did he? You expect more from a touring car race than that, Jimmy. Slides to come back. This circuit is wider here than it used to be. I think that's where we've lost one of our corners from the previous iteration of the circuit. Nice and deep into the hairpin. And Callejas onto the podium then for Brutal Fish. 2nd position yesterday, thanks to Jack Young. Won't happen again. Jack's 17th position now. Callejas engineered by Pepe Oriola, not just mentored and driver coached, but engineered as well. our youngest member of the TCR Europe paddock this year, relatively inexperienced, but has huge amounts of touring car experience in Pepe Oriola. Oriola's going to be going off to South America to race in the South American TCR Championship, which looks like a lot of fun. A lot of air miles. Banani, Dusan Borkovic, locked together. Banani just didn't have the pace in our first race, but he looks to be doing better here. And we've still got about half the race to go. Into the slipstream for Borkovic. Needs to plan this attack calculatingly. He's sometimes can be a bit hot-headed and just go for opportunities as they present themselves, but actually through the banking, it does look like the Peugeot initially gets up to the pace, and then along the straight is where the Honda is strong. The Audi looks a little stronger than the Hyundai, but can Borkovic find the inside line? Not this time. Girolami leads, Langeveld second, Isidro Callejas third. Completely different podium to what we saw in yesterday's race. I don't think Callejas has had a podium this season. Obviously won a couple of rookie races. Franco Girolami third in Slovakia race 2, reverse grid. And actually has had a pretty solid points haul through most of our races. Not necessarily starred in every race, as we got Evgeny Leonov coming into the pits as well. So a problem for Volcano. Really a quiet weekend for the Cupras. The new Cupra, only one of those here, and then the older Cupras, there is Leonov. The older Cupras of Colombani and Poussier Diamond drivers, they tend to be the back end of the field. So Cupra not really represented in TCR Europe this weekend, especially with their works driver Ashkana not here. Mato Homola in the older style Hyundai. Not sure Yannick Motorsport have necessarily got fully on top of it. But Homola inside the top 10 on the back of Davidovski. It's funny to think of Homola as a bit of a older chap of TCR. He's been racing in TCR or touring cars, whether it be European or world level touring cars, for years. 6 or 7 years for Mato Homola. It's because he started when he was 16 years of age. Nicolas Bart on the lights, flashing, telling Sami Tauflug that he wants to come past, but he hasn't managed to find a way through, and now the gap is quite a bit different. Jack Young, by the way, fastest lap of the race last time. There is our best diamond driver, Viktor Davidovski, once again. And yes, Jack Young, fastest lap of the race. Or was it fastest? No, it's just fastest first sector, 45.8. Girolami has got the fastest lap of the race, at 45.5. But with Leonov out the picture, that's put Jack Young back into the points. He's got past Colombani and Poussier. So now it matters. Now he's every position counts, and he should be able to get past this man's teammate, Joachim Galash, shortly. Ultimately, Mato Homola should be making progress here. He shouldn't be worrying too much about Martin Rieber. But Rieber's got himself a decent support from Yas, the guys that build the Honda, and he's got a good Honda underneath him too, whereas the i30 now doesn't necessarily have the same amount of support and backing from a Hyundai, because of course they've got the Elantra, but they've also got the Velostar as well. So 3 different types of Hyundai if you want to go touring car racing. Now this looks better from Dusan Borkovic. Much better run of things through the final 2 turns. Into the slipstream for sure, with the momentum as well, into the inside, and this should be an easy pass to get himself ahead of Mehdi Banani. He does, up into 5th position then for Dusan Borkovic. And Mehdi doesn't fight that too much. Still got 4 laps to go. And with the slightly hotter temperatures and the slightly longer race, even though we're obviously behind the safety car, they'll have to be really turning their attention to how the tyres will last as well. Davidowski to the slightly middling line there through the hairpin of Hugenholtz. Nicolas Bart running to the outside line. More momentum around there, but travels a longer distance. It's not sure whether there really is a defined line through there. You can go really tight if you want, but I think you don't get enough momentum up the hill. You can go really wide, you get lots of momentum up the hill, but you travel a longer distance. And I think there's a middle ground, which is the ideal racing line, but everyone in TCR hasn't yet really worked out the best way forward for that. Be interesting to see what sticks when Formula One comes to town. Good little battle here. Davidowski, Bart, Hommler and Rieber. And this is for 8th position. A few laps ago, Nicolas Bart was on the tail of Semi Tauflug. He's dropping back now, and I feel like he's causing a bit of a roadblock for the guys behind. It's very, very close, but definitely that come to you racing Audi, not with the pace of the guys in front. Jimmy Claret now gets his elbows out. He didn't earlier on in the race, did he? But now he's decided he wants to hold on to full spot. And Borkovic goes all the way around the outside of Tarzan. That's a great move. Now he needs to make it stick. He'll have the inside line for the next braking zone, side by side through the flick left, flick right, and then he can claim the position. Takes a while, but finally Borkovic goes to the inside, takes the middle ground, and takes the momentum up the hill. Claret will try and run alongside him, but it's not wise, as we saw from Jack Young earlier on. They still are side by side. Claret just fading out of the throttle to let Dushan take the position. Such a tricky corner, this one. So easy just to be offline and think you've got it, like we saw from Jack Young, but ultimately just run wide. Borkovic then up into 4th position. Paes is quite a long way ahead though, isn't he? So I don't think Borkovic is going to have enough time to catch the Honda. 2.5 the gap between Girolami and Langveld. 2 seconds between Langveld and Callejas. So a nice field spread between our top 3. And Borkovic, in theory, should check out here. I wonder whether Mehdi Banani fancies a sniff at 5th position. Be a pretty good points hole, considering that car obviously isn't the star that we saw in the first couple of rounds. And it'll be a good recovery for Banani, considering how difficult his race 1 was. Just under 10 kilometers left of race 2 here at Zandvoort. We'll go to Spa at the end of July, so a decent gap between this race and the next. And then the start of September, we're back with SRO once more at the Nürburgring. We'll support the GT Open Championship in Monza, and that's the start of October. And then we'll finish our championship a couple of weeks later at Barcelona with SRO. Jack Young continues to get himself up into 12th position now, so Young is really moving. He's got past Kalash, he's got past Teddy Claret, and I have to say, this weekend is a coming of age for Jack Young. He's not had a massive amount of TCR experience. He should be able to get past his teammate pretty quickly, team owner, I should say, as well. Martin Rieber. Rieber will know the performance of Jack Young this weekend, having been on the podium and representing Brutal Fish, his team, on the podium. But actually, Rieber's not making it that easy for Jack Young, because I think Rieber fancies himself past Matto Hommler ahead. And what you don't want to do if you're Jack Young is make any kind of contact with your team boss, especially Martin Rieber. There's one thing making contact with your boss's son, aka Tom Coronel, yesterday. There's another thing biffing your teammate off the track, who is your team boss, who is the man who is putting you in that car and supporting you. So Dan Lloyd, part of this team last year, and we were expecting actually to see Dan in the paddock a few more times this year as a driver coach, but obviously priorities elsewhere in the British Touring Car Championship this year. He's not able to do so. Now look at that run from Jack Young. Surely this is another position gained up into 11th position. Martin Rieber not close enough to Matto Homola as they come across the line, and therefore Jack Young puts his car to the inside. Martin doesn't try to defend, allows him to go through, and that's intelligent driving from the Slovakian, because he can now sit behind Jack Young. He's only got 1 or 2 laps to go, but he can follow Jack, and if Jack opens the door past Matto Homola, then Martin can follow through. We were talking about this racing line through Hugenholtz with Jack Young. He's decided to go the super wide route and kiss the outside white line now. It's giving him such a slingshot though. And look, as they come round over the hill, look how close he is. He's not going to try that move again by going around the outside. It didn't work last time, and he's sensible not to try it again. But Homola feels the pressure now. You can see him darting left and right, trying to distract Jack Young, make him unsure of where that Honda might be. Young to the inside there, but actually the better place to do it is through this turn. Throw it down the inside here. Describe a tighter line. He's not close enough though, and actually Homola is getting very close to Davidovski. Davidovski's obviously made a mistake somewhere in those last 2 corners, and maybe Homola will throw it up the inside into the chicane. Is he close enough? Is he brave enough on the brakes? No, not quite. I reckon Jack Young could pick up maybe 2 positions here by the end of the race. That will get him up into 9th spot. That'll be a pretty decent recovery drive, considering he was off in the gravel halfway through the race. Into the slipstream of the Hyundai. Honda's good on the straight as well. Rieber's not close enough to capitalise at the moment, but if Jack Young is thinking about his teammate, he might just claim the apex rather than get the move done before the braking zone. Yeah, he keeps Homola to the outside line. Now Martin, come on. No, not quite close enough. Jack Young up another position, up into 10th spot now. Final lap of the race. Girolami leads Langeveld, leads Callejas. No difficulties there. Jack Young slingshots himself out of Hugenholtz up and over the hill to get himself hopefully close enough to Davidovski, but it's Honda versus Honda now, and so any straight line speed advantage will not be played out. Here is Franco Girolami. Nestor with him this weekend, brother and world driver for Honda. And Franco with nowhere near the same experience as his brother, but race after race after race, hugely improving. And he is now on course to take his maiden TCR victory here at Zandvoort. Jack Young flashing his lights, saying, come on, Victor, let me pass. There's not many opportunities left. That was probably the last real opportunity, actually, because it's not a big enough braking zone into the final 2 turns. Here comes Nestor, here comes Franco Girolami to take victory here at Zandvoort in race 2 for Honda. Niels Langeveld, the local boy, in 2nd position, so we still have a Dutch driver on the podium. And Isidro Callejas gets himself his 1st podium. So 2 Hondas, Dusan Borkovic pretty close by the end. And where is Jack Young? There's been maybe a bit of contact because Jack Young has got past Davidovski for 9th, but there was bits of car coming off Davidovski's car as he came across the line. So something may have happened in the last couple of corners. There is the PSS teammate, though, of Davidovski, Franco Girolami, the Argentine, winner of race 2 here at Zandvoort. Good start from the Honda, good first couple of laps, clean moves. Look around the car, not even, doesn't really look like there's any rubber on it at all. That can just go back into the truck. No work needed. Franco's done what he needs to do here. And ultimately, a 2-second advantage by the end of the race. And just look, as he goes offline, just how much sand is on the outside of the track here. That's a big characteristic of Zandvoort when it's a nice hot and sunny day. 2 seconds the gap between himself and Niels Langeveld, the best of the Hyundais, with Isidro Callejas 7 seconds back by the end, so it was a slow last lap from Callejas. Dusan Borkovic within a second by the end, 4th spot. Jimmy Claret 5th, Mehdi Banani in 6th. His mentor, Sami Taufluik in 7th position. Nicolas Bart got close to him again, didn't he, on that last lap, but unable to pass. Jack Young 9th ahead of Viktor Davidovski on the last lap, but we'll have to see if that stands, whether there was contact or not. DNFs for Evgeny Leonov and Volcano Motorsport. Also, most notably, Tom Coronel, Klim Gavarov and Felicio Yelmini all getting together after something happened to Tom's car. Go and check out his social media and ours, TCR Europe and TCR Series, to find out the story. I'm sure, actually, Tom has got his news on social already, hasn't he? Don't know whether anybody's flagging it for me. It's been quite quiet on Twitter today from our experts. It obviously means that I'm doing slightly better than I was in the first couple of weekends, where I was getting lots of corrections. PSS then running side by side. There doesn't look like too much damage on Davidovski's car, so maybe that pass was a legitimate one from Jack at the end of the race. Difficult place to pass, because there's a little bit of a braking zone before the bank turn here, but then it's just an acceleration zone after that. So TCR cars go left to their paddock on the outside of the circuit, just the top 3, and our podium driver will go to the podium. Hopefully we'll get a chance to celebrate with our drivers. What's that Hyundai doing down there? Yeah, he's completely missed where he needs to go. Got our podium quickly. There's Callejas, little Spaniard with his bright yellow helmet, almost as though he's going speedboat racing. Celebrations for PSS, though. The Macedonian team, Franco Girolami, the Argentine. Beautiful race from start to finish. Did what he needed to do. And that is his maiden victory.
Stop the engine, stop. Stop the engine.
There's his brother, Nestor, giving him a hug first. Mentor, engineer, and lots of celebrations. The Yas mechanics desperate to get the engine stopped. And obviously Franco needs to be the one that does that. Here's Niels Langeveld. Don't get confused, it's the same helmet as Tom Coronel, same sponsor, cheese sponsor, but obviously the Hyundai Motorsport overalls. And celebrations all around. Isidro Callejas, little Spaniard in the back of shot there as well. Now, of course, a passionate Argentine, yes! Plenty of celebrations going on. We need to get his helmet off so we can have a quick word with him and see how he is feeling. Hopefully they're not jetting off straight away. Based out in Europe now, so they don't have to fly all the way up to Argentina. There's Nilsson Isidro. And the cap is going on to Girolami, so let's head over to Mark James and chat to Franco.
Franco, many congratulations. How do you feel?
Thank you. I can't believe it. I am very grateful for all PSS, Shad Motorsport, all family Honda. This is my favorite race winning TCR Europe. I can't believe it. For my brother, for my girlfriend, my family, for Argentina, I am very, very happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Still struggling a little bit with his English, Franco, so that's a nice short and concise interview. Nestor with a few more years over here in Europe, having transferred from Argentina over to here, and now a works Honda driver. Plenty of work support from Yas Motorsport, as I said. And we'll try and rush these boys onto the podium. A bit of a condensed timetable here at Zandvoort due to earlier issues in earlier races. And of course, we had a safety car which made our race longer too. So there's been pretty frenetic action across our 2 races here at Zandvoort. Lovely to come back to Zandvoort after a couple of years away. And as always, brilliant to be part of the SRO package. Hopefully next time at Spa we'll be able to invite some fans into the stands to enjoy our races on Friday and Saturday at Spa-Francorchamps for our TCR races. And until then, 6 weeks away, enjoy everything that TCR has to offer. TCR Series is our website and all the various social media channels. Ezekiel Calles, 3rd position. In 2nd position is the man local to here, Niels Langeveld. And your winner, Franco Girolami for Honda. See you next time.